Good morning.
Good morning.
And are you refreshed?
Yes.
Are you knowing what it is you are wanting to talk about?
Yes.
Let us hear from you.
You were saying earlier about if you want to feel good, just ask to feel good. Something like that. And I recall I've only had a couple of times I really didn't feel good in the last 30 years. One of those times, though, was about 30 years ago. And I couldn't find anything to get a hold of to feel better. And it had, maybe, I can't remember, perhaps a day or two of it. It was I just couldn't get out of it. And I felt so down.
You had been very strongly committed to thoughts of lack.
Yeah, I've got myself in a position to where I felt it was something that I was out of control of because I let someone else have control of something.
Blame, we hear some blame there.
That's good enough. But anyway, my point is that I could not, it seemed like for days, I could not get myself lifted up at all. And I was really good at lifting myself up, or not getting down even. And then in wanting to find my way up, I went down to the side of a lake in some little town because I was traveling in a different town every day. And I sat on the edge of on the bank of this lake, and a family came in, parents and 3 or 4 small children, and they put their little boat into the water, and they were putting their picnic into the boat and their fishing gear and their water wings and everything, and they were all having so much fun. And suddenly I realized I was feeling wonderful. And I went down to them, and I said to them, I just want to thank you. And they looked at me like, for what? And I said, for you guys having such a wonderful life and loving one another and having so much fun was one of the most important things that could have happened to me in a long, long time. I just want to say thank you for having such a good time. And I don't know, they can't know what they did for me. So my question is about all that. Okay, so I knew what I was looking for. I was looking for some way to uplift myself. I just wasn't going to allow myself to feel bad any longer. But then what happened? Did I see good in what was happening, or did something good happen in front of me? Because did I attract something? You know what I'm saying?
Your inner being inspired you to a synchronistic rendezvous with that which your inner being knew would bring forth good feeling within.
So then something good happens in answer. It isn't just we see something and turn it into good.
You attract it.
Okay,
you first decide what your point of attraction is, then you literally bring it unto you and you unto it. In other words, in the attraction, it is a fine line between whether you have brought it to you or whether you have brought you to it. In other words, attraction works this way. It is not this way. Very often, and that is the reason that we use the word attraction more predominantly. As you think of a creating, most of you, from your action orientation, think of having a spear gun, shooting it out there, getting something, and then reeling it back to you, or putting a lasso around it and bringing it in. Where attraction is adjusting your vibration so that you are bringing it unto you and you unto it.
See, there's the criticism of the Pollyanna attitude, and that is seeing everything as though it's beautiful and good and happy when it really isn't, which is one form of feeling better. But the other way...
One who is connected to his inner being would never accuse you of that. Only the disconnected ones make those statements.
As though that's a negative.
And it is from their lack that they make that statement. And and very often it is those that are feeling lack that are criticizing those who are joyful. And the reason they offer their criticism is because you are inflaming their sense of lack. The rich inflame the sense of poverty in the poor. The well inflame the sense of illness in the sick. The secure inflame the sense of insecurity in the insecure. But we promise you, friends, you cannot get sick enough.
That's where I was headed.
To make those who are sick well.
Or poor enough.
Cannot get poor enough to help the poor ones not be poor. In other words, it is from your place of connection with that which you are wanting that you are the uplifter of others. That is the reason that we say, be selfish, yes, because if you are not selfish enough to have your own balance, then you have nothing to give to anyone else. But when you are selfish enough to be connected to who you are, then you have an abundant gift to give to others, you see.
I have 2 questions. The first one is one that has always caused me considerable confusion because I just don't understand. Can you help me to understand what is the role of the historical Jesus? From my understanding, he always separated himself from the God force. And yet those that I know now, to me it seems as though they think that Jesus is God, and they have idolized him when part of his teaching was not to create idols. I don't understand how they perceive the role of Jesus, and perhaps you can tell us what his true role was in coming into the earth.
You have hit upon a key point when you say, what is the role of the historical? Because all teachers come forth in their time in order to move beyond the thought that exists. In other words, if you can see this one that you know as Jesus, very like you, a physical being coming forth with the intent of connecting with his broader, wiser, non-physical counterpart for the purpose of the delicious co-creating. In other words, if you could go back in time and talk with that man as he spoke then, you would find him to be very much in harmony with that which you are knowing today. It is the distortion of that which he was, that which he is, that is troubling you. Think about it, friends. It is very difficult for you to hear the words that he spoke because they have been edited and changed to suit the purposes of those who were in power or ruling at the time. Imagine a group such as this gathering together and coming to some very important discoveries, and then all going forth and writing their own accounting of it, and then burying the accounting and letting it be rediscovered again many generations later. It is not possible for you to make real sense of that which is written in another time. And that is the reason that you continue to come back in the new time. You continue to say, I will come forth in the new time, in the present time. I will chew upon the data and become familiar with it, and then I will let my broader knowing come forth, you see. There are many who are waiting for the second coming. There are many who are waiting for the first coming. There are many who are waiting for this energy to come forth. And what our message is that there is not a reason to wait for it. It is here. It has come forth through those like you who are, as Jesus Christ was, chewing upon the data of the physical and then allowing the connectedness. When you think about it, and as it is you're wanting to understand the correlation between the two, it is our full expectation that what you will discover is that the historical Jesus is not for you to dig up and read about, but for you to ask about in the now and let him come forth in the now and explain to you anything that you are wanting to know in terms that are meaningful to you in this time, you see.
Thank you. That makes much more sense to me.
Let's go here, and then we'll come up here.
I'd like to understand the concept of us being one. I read about it at times and it clicks in my head, and then time will go by and I'll lose it, and I realize that I may intellectually understand it, but I've just been unsuccessful in internalizing it.
We would say that what is happening to you even more is that you are sometimes feeling it in an emotional way, but it is difficult to intellectualize.
All right.
Let's chew upon it for a little bit. It is not possible for you to see other than through the physical eyes that you have. In other words, your perspective is purely through your focus as you look about here. And that is the way you have intended it to be. That is the reason that you do not have recollection of past life experiences. And that is the reason that you do not see from your broader non-physical perspective. You said, I want to go forth and be fully immersed in this time and place. The reason that you chose that is because you are a powerful creator wanting to take thought beyond that which it has ever been before. And the definition of this physical environment is what provides that. As in our example yesterday of the broad spectrum of light brought to a very narrow being. In this case, the broad spectrum of light would represent the non-physical, while the very narrow spectrum, like the laser beam, would be represented by your physical life experience. It is nice to know that you do not have to choose one or the other, that that you have access to both of them simultaneously. And that is what the essence of co-creating is that we have been talking about all of this time. Now, you accept easily that you are a physical body here focused. That part is not difficult. You can see your flesh and bone. You see others. Not hard to see this clump of energy housed here in this. And then we begin to talk to you in what is not the best terminology of the inner being. Inner being, or higher self, or soul, spiritual guide, all sorts of words are offered about it. All of them inappropriate because all of them sound singular. And yet you see yourselves as singular, and so when we're talking to you, a singular being, it is consistent with the way you approach things to talk about your non-physical counterpart as being singular, as in inner being. When the reality of it is, you have within you inner beings. You would have a very difficult time separating your inner being energy from the inner being energy of the others, you see? And so, as in the example that we offered of taking a bucket of water and saying, this is me, and dumping it into the ocean and then trying to retrieve your bucket back. In like manner, it is not possible for you to separate the energy of your inner being from the energy of other inner beings who are dwelling there in the same family of consciousness. Now, the reason we use the term family of consciousness is because we are wanting to point out that because of law of attraction, that which is likened to itself is drawn. And so that which is a vibrational harmony is always that which is together. And you come forth from a family of consciousness that is very powerful. And by powerful, we do not mean overbearing or taking control of others. We mean deliberate in intent, decided, disciplined, deliberate in intent. So that the family of consciousness from which you have come forth, all of those inner beings that are gathered there, those like the ones Esther saw in her bedroom, as she saw energy, millions of them, and then all of them gathering together in one bright light, that energy or essence or non-physical represents thousands of physically focused beings, and by your terms, hundreds of non-physical entities. We're not expressing this perfectly. We know there is not physical terminology to do justice to the picture that we're wanting to offer, but you're getting a sort of sense of it. Now, very often we are asked, all is well here, very often we are asked, does my inner being have an inner being? In other words, here you are, physically focused, and you have a very strong sensation in positive and negative emotion of the presence or absence of your inner being. In other words, you are getting the sense of how you can feel when you are vibrating in harmony with your greater knowing. And in like manner, your inner being, or that non-physical family from which you have emerged, has that same sense of presence or absence of that connectedness. And so, physically focused with an inner being, with an inner being, with an inner being, with an inner being, you're sort of getting a sense of how it all comes forth. Now, to take it a little bit further, when you say, we say to you, and you are saying it also, but we're wanting to put it in those terms, we say to you, you are teacher. To the very core of your being. You come forth from family of teachers, which means you come forth, as our friend was talking earlier, from the family of teachers, as did the one you know as Jesus Christ, as the one you know as Buddha, as the one you know as Muhammad. In other words, there are many teachers, some that you know by famous rhetoric and some that you are not aware of. You come forth specifically into this time and place, wanting to bring your greater knowing, specifically of the laws of allowing, and the laws of creation into this time and place. Your non-physical family is family of teachers specifically wanting to teach these specific things. And you know what they are by the way you feel about them. In other words, when you get upon subjects about Jesus or about the Bible or about those sorts of things, you feel a sensitivity to them because it is something that you have come forth to help to make